No matter which government is in power, health is always the top three with the public when it comes to what is important, from struggling to see a doctor to trying to get on a waiting list for elective surgery or being able to pay for medication, not to mention keeping and retaining nurses, doctors and specialists. Now, yesterday in the government's budget, in the health side, it came with a 4.77% increase on last year to $31 billion. One of the most noticeable investments was $447 million set aside to expand urgent and after-hours services. The idea is to make it easier for people to see a GP or a nurse when they need to, without the long delays many have been facing. A big chunk of money is also going into brick and mortar. Over $1 billion has been earmarked for upgrading and modernising health facilities across the country. It will include major hospitals in Nelson, Wellington, Auckland and Palmerston North. That is a lot of hospitals for not really a lot of money, I would have thought. Workforce pressure is another key area being tackled, says the government. The budget funds more spots for medical students, including training 25 extra each year, and gives 50 local graduates more time in primary care placements. There's also support for up to 100 international medical graduates that are coming into the system, plus extra funding for graduate nurses, nurse practitioners, all aimed at easing staffing shortages. Starting from June next year, patients with long-term conditions like asthma, diabetes and high blood pressure will be able to receive 12-month prescriptions, reducing the need for frequent doctor visits. At the moment, it stands at 3 months. This initiative is predicted to cost $91 million, but it could save patients up to $105 annually in GP fees. And I told you before the break, I worked mine out, and mine's nearly $350 if it went from 3 months to a year. Luke Bradford, Medical Director of the Royal New Zealand College of General Practitioners. We welcome him back onto the show. Hello, Luke.
Hey, Leah. How are you?
Well, I'm good. I don't know how much you've been able to digest the budget.
Yes, fair bit.
I know you're a busy man. But looking at this year's $31 billion in the budget, do you think it hits the mark in areas people were most concerned about?
I think the stuff we've talked about previously about the urgent care and the enhanced capitation probably does. That indicates that we've got to see investment into the community and the preventative stuff to try and stop the demands on hospitals. We know the infrastructure needs are massive across our hospital system, and in an ideal world it will be more. But I think in terms of capital spend, the country's struggling to afford it. But there are certainly gaps, which we've talked about before as well, around making it more affordable for patients to get seen by their GPs, etc.
Yeah. The budget includes funding to train 25 additional medical students annually. It doesn't really sound like that many, but I mean, it's 25. And support for international medical graduates. But that's a good step, yes?
Yeah, absolutely. We definitely need more doctors. The 25 they do sort of incrementally increase it most years. I think it went up by 50 last. There has, of course, been a discussion around Waikato Medical School that seems to have gone silent because a lot of work had gone into that. Which would have been a game changer in terms of the number of GPs. Yeah. And the international graduates, and there's some support for helping them train through, well, not train through, but come and experience and work within general practice so that they can see what a great career it is. So that's good.
Over $1 billion, Luke, has been earmarked for upgrading health facilities. They mentioned major hospitals in Nelson, Wellington, Auckland and Palmy. Now, to me, that doesn't sound like a lot of money considering how far it has to stretch.
No, it's not. And we know there's always massive cost blowouts on these projects as well.
Yeah.
And we know that there's a series of hospitals just in behind that in terms of real pressing need. Tauranga, for instance, Tongarei, etc. They're full to bursting. So, we do have to look at how we are going to fund hospital bills because we definitely don't have the infrastructure we need currently.
Starting next June, and in fact, I think I had this conversation, if it wasn't with you, Luke, it might have been with Dr. Brian Betty, about prescriptions, and those with like asthma, diabetes, high blood pressure will be eligible for 12-month prescriptions, unlike the 3 months we have at the moment. What are your thoughts on this initiative?
I think it's really important that people understand it has to be seen on a patient-by-patient basis, and according to what medicines you're on and what conditions you've got and how well controlled those conditions are. I think the example of insulin for diabetics is a really, really bad one given by the government in the press release, because it would be almost unheard of for us not to want to be in more regular review of our diabetics, because of the sheer number of complications and other things that can go on with diabetes. But there are certain things where absolutely it makes sense that it will be easier for patients. It will mean less costs on repeat scripts and popping in. Certainly people on one or two medicines for well-controlled conditions, it makes sense for. But for a whole lot of other patients who are going to now think it means they only need to be seen annually, there's going to have to be that conversation with your doctor about actually what are those reviews about? What are we actually checking, and where that benefit lies in terms of making sure the condition's controlled, that the parameters are being marked, the bloods are in date, and the like.
Because I do get that, Luke. Especially, I'm someone on high blood pressure medication, and like you mentioned with diabetics, a year does sound a long time to not check in with your doctor, because a lot can happen in 12 months. Would you have supported if it had gone to 6 months instead?
Yeah, and so the college wrote a submission asking for 6 months. We thought that was more appropriate, and I think this is not necessarily targeted at those people who are having to go and see the GP, because normally that's for a reason. This is about people who phone in or put in through the computer system for a repeat prescription, and then one gets issued. And I think the feeling was that was just an administrative task, and therefore attracted unnecessary fees and unnecessary time for the doctors. I think what it neglects to do, and we've been at pains to point out, is that in that repeat prescription issuance, the doctor looks to see what your blood results were, what your latest blood pressure was, where your disease control is, if anyone else has changed any medicines from hospitals or specialists, and whether there's any screening needs that we're due to catch up about. And so it was a point at which the GP would look into your notes and go through everything and make sure everything was on track. Taking that away is one of our concerns. And in actual fact, what will happen is the doctors will do it anyway, set themselves reminders, but won't be able to set a fee for it. So it will just be another thing that sits in capitation.
Right. Oh, okay. I see what you're saying.